I think it's finally time to open some comics. Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up a box of comics. I feel like I haven't done this in a while, so I'm a little rusty, but I'm really looking forward to getting back to what I love about the hobby, which is finding great deals, collecting, buying from sellers that I trust, that I know, and this unboxing is no different. I placed an order with Atomic Avenue with the seller Capco Comics, and he's a seller that I often frequent on Atomic Avenue. I also order from his brother, Professor's Comics, and between those two collections, they have quite an inventory of just really great and cool comic books. Now, there's something else that I'm doing here, kind of in the background, and it's not necessarily a guarantee that this will happen, but I am considering working with yet another presser and am looking for some examples of some books that maybe just need a little bit of TLC, where I can kind of do what I did before, which is send, maybe 6 to 8 books to the presser, have them send the books to CGC on my behalf, and kind of see what the outcome is like. I don't want to just send moderns that have one little slight imperfection, because I really don't know if the presser makes a difference on those, or if CGC is just sometimes a little bit lenient, if there's like waves in the page and things like that. I feel like it really kind of depends. The difference between a 9.8 and a 9.6 on some of those books, it just varies. I have many 9.8s that, to me, I probably would grade them 9.4. So it's not all that interesting to me to send pure moderns in. What I'm looking for are newspaper print comics that have some significant crease, like maybe just a slight dog ear or something along the spine, where it's almost a guaranteed no-brainer that it needs some sort of press. So as I open this, I'm going to keep that in mind and see if I can maybe find some to set aside, some good examples of some books to send off for pressing and cleaning. And hopefully if I do find them and I send them off, I'll be able to create some content around that and show you kind of what my review is of the process. Now, I can't guarantee that I'm going to get a nice set of books that are to send off for pressing based on this order I placed with Capco Comics, but just keep in mind that's kind of what I'm doing. It may take a few unboxings to kind of find some books, but I want to develop once and for all kind of a couple of different queues or workflows. I have one working with the Comic Doctor in Toronto, but those are really more for, I would say, my higher end books that I don't necessarily need to get them back in a hurry because he is backlogged. And also I'm sending him some of my bigger books that might need just some extra time spent with them, maybe to fix a spine roll or something. What I'm looking for is a second queue of books that maybe only have 1 or 2 defects where I just can't live with the book being the way it is and just don't think it would be a 9.8 as is, and then it would prevent me from sending these books into CGC, which I want to get more of my comics graded. So let me get to the unboxing, show you what I bought from Capco Comics. I think I got some good stuff in here, I got some good deals, but we'll have to look at the data in the order summary at the very end to see if I've truly added value to my collection, and also stick around to see what the potential value of these books are if I were to get them graded. But first, let's get to the unboxing. All right, here is the order that I placed with Capco Comics. The shipping drives me crazy with Atomic Avenue. Certain sellers that I really like will offer free shipping, and then others will not. And the shipping calculation on Atomic Avenue for sellers that charge for shipping is always wrong. So I was charged $18.95 for this order, and you can see postage paid right there, $9.95. Again, love the seller, fine. He gets an extra $10. I know that there's fees to sell on the platform and all of that, so it's fine, fine, but it's not fine, right? Just kind of ridiculous. I wish they would fix their math on that. It was one of the things that drove me nuts when I tried to sell on the platform. But typically I'll try and unlock free shipping. In this case, it's not. Here it is. Doesn't matter. It's time to open this up and take a look at the comics. Okay, we got through it. Capco always does some sort of homegrown boxing and cardboard stuff securely. Send the comics, which I appreciate. A lot of Scotch tape still on this, so we'll kind of just get through it as we go through the books. So just bear with me as I start to peel some of these off. And these are all kind of in the same, well, maybe a couple would be considered quote unquote moderns, but they're all kind of what I was saying before, looking at sort of late bronze, copper age, newspaper print type from that era. I think almost all of these are Marvel. Oh, the Scotch tape. Of course, the first one's not Marvel. First one is, and I'll be I'm gonna rebag and board all of these, so forgive some of the tape on the side. But this first one is Batman 399. This one I've had my eye on for a little while, and I knew that Capco had it. He kind of turns his store on and off on Atomic Avenue, and it's one of those where the cover's just, yeah, it's cool, it's creepy, it's weird, it's Batman. At least you got the bat signal out there. Cover art by Tom Mandrake, and this is one of those like sneaky value books. When this book is slabbed in a 9.8, it goes for quite a bit. I think it's because of the cover itself being pretty much an all black cover, especially along the spine and the border here. So hopefully this one ends up grading out. I don't see a ton of color breaking ticks in the bag, so that looks pretty good. But it's one of those where I'm not in love with the cover. Like maybe if this was a House of Mystery, I'm like, oh, this is a great cover. But because it's Batman, I'm not sure if I love it. But I do love value, and that book does have it. So I wanted to pick it up. Next one, everyone is on the Dazzler bandwagon, and this is Dazzler number 4. Everyone's trying to go after her first appearance in X-Men 130 or getting issue 1 of this series, and I just figure I'll just get the books around those books. This one is cool. I heard this story a while ago. This one's cool because it's got Doctor Doom on it. I heard about this a while ago where it was kind of a debate around the Marvel office as far as what are they going to do with Dazzler, like this character that just has these powers based on light. And it's like, let's put her up against Doctor Doom. Just so it's kind of an interesting, you wouldn't think that Dazzler would be all too formidable for Doom himself, but we've got cover art by Frank Springer here, pretty cool, where Dazzler's kind of battling a mirror image of herself on the cover with Doctor Doom back there. But I kind of collect with the philosophy of the rising tide raises all ships, and if there's a high interest in just a couple of issues of Dazzler, and her interest continues to increase with the speculation of her appearing in Deadpool 3, then as those issues get bought up, collectors are going to look for other issues. Not that this is a significant issue or a key or anything. It's just fun for me because it has Doom right there featured on the cover. Next up is Green Lantern number 171. This is a really nice Gil Kane Green Lantern cover. And just looking at the condition on this one, it has a slight stack increase, but looks pretty nice. This is very typical of kind of books that you're getting from Capco. All of these books were picked up in near mint condition as listed on Atomic Avenue, and Capco grades out somewhere between a 9 and a 9.4 typically, and occasionally there will be a 9.6, 9.8 that slips in. Next up, we have Marvel Comics presents number 70, featuring Wolverine and Ghost Rider, and this is just great. This is awesome. Love this cover. Cover art by Rob Liefeld. If you haven't checked out Rob Liefeld's Robservations podcast, I am just, every time I get in the car, I turn it on. I'm just totally consuming it at this point. But I'm starting at the beginning. I think I'm through episode 6 or 7. It's actually made me think a little bit differently about Liefeld. He gets kind of a bad rap for, not drawing feet, and of course there's no feet on this cover, or just his Captain America art, or some of the other things that he's drawn. But he is such a comic book nerd, and it's kind of cool that he just nerds out on this podcast. So if I'm ever in the car for a long period of time, I throw that on. And certainly just by listening to the podcast, thinking about some of the other works that he's done, and I don't think collectors think of Marvel Comics Presents, when they think of Liefeld, they probably think of Deadpool, New Mutants, Cable, Youngblood, Image, all of that stuff. And I thought this is a pretty cool rendering of Wolverine here, even if he is sharing the cover with a giant Ghost Rider behind him. So that is Marvel Comics Presents number 70. Next is a run of Iron Man. I picked up Iron Man 153. This features the Living Laser and cover art by Bob Layton. And just checking the condition on this. Again, looks very, very decent. Absolutely high grade for sure. Could be one of those candidates to send off for pressing. I do notice some things like right up here, a little bit of discoloration. I hope that's on the bag and not on the comic itself. But these are the kind of books that I'm looking for, where they've just been part of somebody's collection, somebody that's probably not going through and pressing and cleaning all of these books. So it's an opportunity maybe to bump some of these up a grade or two. Next one is Iron Man 127. This one is part 8 of Demon in a Bottle. Cover art again by Bob Layton. Really great action cover here. Kind of like these B-tier Iron Man Rogues Gallery. These are the kind of characters that would always kind of pop up in different storylines. Blizzard, Melter, Whiplash, those types of characters. They just pop up periodically. As I was reading Iron Man, he's really all twisted up there. Love how that iron really is quite flexible. There's another little interesting anecdote about this one that I didn't know until I researched this, and I kind of want to just read it because trying to explain it, I just learned about it. But in this issue, Jarvis submits a letter of resignation. And the letter is described as having like some problems with maybe the style, the wording, or the editing. And the letter is signed by Jarvis when that is his last name. So it was kind of weird that the letter was signed, and it was supposed to be from Jarvis. But the confusing part is there was a mix-up with the letter, that the letter that got published in the book in this issue as part of the story was a resignation letter from Dave Cockrum. Just kind of a weird little side story, like that the letter that was supposed to be from Jarvis got in here, but it was actually from a Marvel creator. And then in issue 130, it was kind of explained like the details of this. So now I got to go back and pull out issue 130 and read up and figure this out. So it's just the Demon in a Bottle storyline is one of the most, if not the most, more popular and iconic and seminal runs of Iron Man. Armor Wars is up there as well. But everyone, I think, when you're talking about classic Iron Man, you think of Demon in a Bottle. So the book already has that going for it, that it's part of that storyline. But now you've got this other little anecdotal thing with the resignation letter that's supposed to be from Jarvis. But now, Jarvis wanted to resign because of Tony's alcoholism, and then it ended up being something with a creator. So kind of interesting little side story there. Back to Dazzler, all things Dazzler, right? This is Marvel Team Up number 109 with Spider-Man teaming up with Dazzler herself. And just taking a look at this one, again, looks great. This one, what I'm seeing is it's not necessarily going to have those giant color-breaking spine ticks, but it's just potentially got some, I know it's a little hard to see in the bag, but just some general minor non-color breaking ticks. It's those kind of things that where you look at the spine and it's almost like you're obviously not folding the comic in half, but it was just slightly bent, and it creates just the slightest of almost like little divots in the spine, but they don't break color. And that's where, if you could pop the cover open, add a little humidity, give it a nice press, it gets smoothed out. It's brand new. It's a very straightforward and easy press. And those are the kind of things that I want to send to a presser. This one, Sandman number 55. I was going through the complete run of Sandman. This is a cover art by Dave McKeon. And as soon as I saw this one, immediately fell in love with it. It's not a key. It's probably, now that, this particular issue, the Sandman issue numbering, we're up to issue 55. Once you get like past the teens or into the 20s, the general interest and collectability of Sandman it falls off. However, this one really caught my eye. Really happy to pick this up for almost next to nothing. And now, having seen it in person, and hopefully it grades out, looks, I mean, could be one of my new favorite issues of Sandman, just for the McKeon cover alone here. Just, I love it. Now, I did place this order, oh, I think it was a couple weeks before Halloween, so that Batman 399, this book, maybe I had a certain theme in my mind, but I was also buying Dazzler books, so go figure. But this one looks to be pretty nice. A little bit of corner whitening down here, but altogether, again, like I said, with Capco, it's not a guarantee, but you can certainly expect a Night on a 9.4. Maybe that book ends up grading out a 9.6, so a nice high grade copy. Next is Power Man and Iron Fist, number 55. Bob Layton kind of getting his hands on all of these books here in this order. Did the cover on this one with Rubenstein on inks, and was probably influenced a little bit by the podcast observations as well, because the first chunk of episodes really talks about the Bronze Age, the mid to late 70s, the types of characters. Rob talked about Power Man and the team up with Iron Fist, and really started to focus on analyzing like full runs, like the full run of Sandman and the full run of Power Man, and eventually Power Man and Iron Fist. And then what ends up happening is I find some of these non-keys floating around on the internet. I mean, who wouldn't love a great Marvel comic from 1978 in high grade? And this one looks to be just has a lot of potential here as you kind of look at the spine. Very, very nice. You know, it always looks better in the bag and board, I realize. Like right there, kind of gets overlooked, but there's just a slight overlap on the cover. But yeah, just started analyzing these runs, and also kind of understood the type of comics that Capco Comics has in his collection too. So everything just sort of lined up. Next one is New X-Men number 152. This one by two of the all-time greatest creators, Grant Morrison and Mark Silvestri, of sort of like modern age comic book creators. Silvestri obviously went on to Image. Morrison, known for many series within Marvel and DC, also Independence, and probably one of the just meanest looking Nightcrawler covers you'll ever see there. So I wanted to grab this. This, unfortunately, this specific issue looks to be a little bit in rough shape, probably around the 8.5 or 9, most likely because of this corner here, you could see. So without even taking out of the bag and board, that corner right there is going to prevent it from getting anything over a 9.4. But still, love Silvestri, one of the all-time greats, and a great Nightcrawler cover there. Back to Sandman for a second. Sandman at number 60, another great Dave McKeon cover. This is part 4 of the Kindly Ones storyline. You know, we're getting up there in issues. Number 60, Sandman ends up running out a year or two after this issue comes out. This one looks a little bit better shape. Fortunately, has a little bit of the corner softening. You know, again, it's just like it's that 9.2 to 9.6. Not quite the 9.8 candidate there, but my goal was eventually to have a full run of Sandman, so I was happy to add Sandman 60 and 55 to my collection. Removing some Scotch tape, we've got X-Men Annual number 5. I've got several copies of this. I am always kind of a sucker for lots of characters on the cover, lots of action. If you think of like Contest of Champions, those types of Secret Wars. This is cover art by Brent Anderson. Issue was written by Chris Claremont, but really cool team up here of the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. This is not a square bound, it's just a double-sized issue from 1981, and this looks to be really nice. Again, just seeing a few of those non-color breaking ticks. A little bit of corner blunting down here, but not too bad. Really nice copy of that X-Men Annual. All right, so the next book, I had to get some more tape off of these. These are interesting. I've received these before from Capco, and I'll talk about this one first because I bought 2 copies of Marvel Team Up number 109, Spider-Man and Dazzler. And then this one is new in this order. Invincible Iron Man number 129 with, once again, cover art by Bob Layton. This is from 1979. I've received these before where it has this certificate that it's from the official Mile High collection, the second Mile High collection to be specific. And it's just a piece of paper. It does have kind of a stamp, so maybe this makes it official right there. It's just a cool collectible. I don't know if a grading company is going to respect this or treat it. Like, I don't think it's going to get whatever the label color is, bronze or tan, where it's like a pedigree or collection label. I don't know if that's the case. But to me, it's still pretty cool. But it's just a piece of paper that was printed and cut out. I don't know if Chuck himself actually wrote this, assuming it came from Mile High Comics. But it's kind of fun to read, selected as one of the highest quality examples of this particular issue they have ever seen. If you're thinking back around this time, like, this is before professional grading and everything. So I don't know if it was kind of a scam, like they just slapped a certificate on all the books, and then when it sold, they'd find the next highest grade copy and put another certificate on there. But it is a fun collectible. It'd be interesting to send those into CGC, or maybe just send one and see what they do with it. Again, I don't anticipate them putting some sort of pedigree label on these. I could always contact them, send them some photos, and just tell them, what do I do with these in order to preserve the certificate of authenticity. I think in most cases, if there's any sort of certificate, the grading companies either throw them away or just return them in the order with the book slabbed, and you just get the generic label. So it's kind of dismissed, but I like having these. It's another additional piece of history on top of the comics themselves. So really nice additions to the collection here. But I want to see now if I truly added any value to the collection, if any of these books have some real potential if I were to send them out for grading, and also to look and see if these books end up grading out or having the potential to grade out. Is it worth sending out to a presser? So let's take a look at the order summary for this order from Atomic Avenue. All right, here is the order that I placed with Capco Comics back on October 19th, 2023. Like I said, I had a partial Halloween theme or fall theme happening, and then maybe a Dazzler theme, and then who knows, maybe Iron Man. I don't know. These were all just books that I had analyzed and thought were good pickups from a seller that I've ordered from in the past that I trust. I did, as I mentioned, have to pay $18.95 shipping. So what I ended up doing is taking the total cost here all the way to the right in column Z, and I distributed the shipping cost across the entire order. So every issue has like an additional like $1.35 added to it. So like Batman $3.99, for instance, I ended up paying $4.50 for it. My total cost that I like to track is $5.85, and I like to track everything so that door to door I understand what did it truly cost me to acquire the book, so that when I'm sending it out for things like grading or pressing or just anything in general, I want to figure out, just what did I truly pay for it so that I can estimate values and margins and so forth. So I was invoiced $79.95 by Atomic Avenue, and if my math is correct, the total cost here, which is the sum of all of these, should add up to $79.95, and it does. So we're good. So I understand the true total cost of each book. In column U, I've got the fair market value as provided by Cover Price, and this is either the value of a near mint book or the highest value of any grade, and I take the greater of the two when I'm evaluating an order like this, because it doesn't make any sense to me why a value at Cover Price would be $5 for a near mint and $15 for a very fine. It seems very backwards and strange, but that's how they do it. So I like to take the greater of the two, because I have to assume that all of these books are near mint, because that's how they were listed. So now I want to see if any of these books, if I were to keep them raw, have any positive value add to my collection. So I'm going to go ahead and move over here to column AA. And down in the summary, you can see for this total order, I've added about $25 of value to my collection based on what I purchased. And this is how I select the books. At the time I placed the order, I try to kind of estimate a value add or potential value add, so that in most cases, at least if I did get the books raw and wanted to keep them, I'm still adding some value for those books in high grade as is. and it's nice to see this order turning out with a positive value add. So just looking at some of the highlights, we've got Iron Man number 153, a $5.65 value add. I paid $5.35 for that book, and it has a cover price fair market value of $11. The most expensive book in the order was Iron Man 127, the Demon in a Bottle issue. I paid $14.35 for that book, and it has an $18 fair market value in near mint condition. The rest of the books were either a break even, a dollar here, $2 or $3 there. Looks like there was one loss. Iron Man number 129, total cost of $9.85. It's only worth $5, but I can explain that was listed as having that mile high certificate, and I wanted to go ahead and pick that up because I just feel like it's not that the book is unique, but I just don't think there's a lot of those floating around with the certificates there, and it'll be kind of a little research project to figure out exactly like what do I want to do specifically with those second mile high collection comics that I picked up in this order. So I knew I paid a little bit extra for that, but I was fine with that. And then the greatest value add here was Batman 399. This was the one I said I'd had my eye on for a while, but I wasn't a huge fan, but then I just couldn't quite pass it up. It was $5.85, and it was a $7.15 value add, as cover price has this book at $13. So I want to go ahead and pick that up. Now, if I were to get all of these books graded, near mint is 9.4. So what I like to do is see if any of these have value graded in the 9.4. And if I add 9.4 for the grades of each of these books, and then we can see here in column V the fair market value of these books in a CGC 9.4 slab. And some of these amounts are starting to stand out. Iron Man 127, $100 in a 9.4. $80 for that Power Man and Iron Fist number 55, $58 for Iron Man 153, $50 for Green Lantern 171. So if we look at column AB, and this is the CGC value, meaning after all the grading fees, shipping out to CGC, I factor in all of those costs. After all of that is said and done, plus the cost to acquire the book, have it shipped to me, am I able to add any value if I did decide to get the book graded? And if I were to blindly just send all of these books off to CGC and they all got a 9.4 because the books were listed on Atomic Avenue as near mint, I would stand to add $136 of value to my collection. So again, this is my risk factor or risk tolerance, where I'm trying to determine what is the risk of buying these books and they don't turn out to be 9.8 candidates. Can I still secure some value if I keep them raw or get them slabbed as 9.4s? And we can see that, yes, many of them have value. $41 of additional value added. I paid $6.35 to acquire the book. Cover price is saying the book's only worth $2, so it's showing a loss of $4.35. What happened here, if you noticed, the raw value changed up. When I add a grade into my sheet, then it goes out to my values. The sheet does a lookup specifically for near mint. And, right, so here I'll show you what I mean. If I take off the 9.4, then it goes back to $7 because on cover price, a lesser grade of this book is $7 and the 9.4 near mint is $2. It makes no sense, but that's kind of why those values started to jump around a little bit there. It's because I actually assigned a grade, and I like to use the actual cover price grade, which is not always accurate, which makes this not very accurate if I'm using that as the source, and I'm working on different solutions for that. But for now, just to remain consistent, that's what it looks like. So the CG, just ignore the the cover price raw value for right now. The CGC value, $41 of additional value added there. It's an $80 9.4, and I spent $6.35. So if you're just kind of ballparking $30 to $35, maybe even $40 to press and clean, right? So $40 press, clean, slab, ship back to me. If you add the $6.35, $46.35. Would you pay roughly $45 for a Power Man and Iron Fist 55 9.4? If you're collecting those issues, and you're collecting a run, or maybe you're trying to get as many of those slabbed, I think that's a good deal. It's probably what maybe an under-the-radar auction pickup might be. But, you know, I didn't buy these books for them to be CGC 9.4s. I was hoping that they would be 9.8 candidates. So we've seen the values here in a CGC 9.4, but what if some of these books got a 9.8? I don't believe that they all will, but it's always kind of fun to see what the potential is for this order. What kind of books am I buying? And if all of these books got a 9.8, the total value added for this order would be $2,356, which again is unrealistic. However, I just like to see what is the potential. And Batman 399, this is where that crazy potential comes in. 9.8 CGC value is $869, and I think it's just because the book is so hard to get in a high grade because of the cover design. But look at these other values. Certainly, we're seeing triple digits on a lot of these, which is great to see. But Green Lantern 171, $237. Iron Man 153, $195. Uncanny X-Men Annual Number 5 at $334. $180 for Sandman 60. Sandman 55, my new favorite Sandman cover, $153. I'd love to see that book get a 9.8. I think it's probably a 9.6, but hopefully you kind of get the general idea. Even some of these, none of these are keys. Marvel Team Up 109 with Dazzler, it's a $100 9.8. So that's what I'm saying. If some of these are 9496, it would be worth sending these off to the presser. And I'm just going to leave these values up here for a second because I'm just trying to think about this. You know, what is my kind of on average cost without running the numbers? We've got 80 divided by 14, you know, roughly $6 a book, $5 to $6 a book. And then just maybe ignore the Batman 399 or even throw out the X-Men Annual 5. Maybe those are outliers. But if you're just ballparking this, you're looking at like $100 slabs, $120 slabs, 140 maybe, somewhere around there on average. Pretty good investment into your collection. I think, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at is I could send these off for pressing, pay the fees, and I'd still be way out ahead in terms of value. And now, when I talk about being out ahead, I don't necessarily mean that these types of books should be purchased, slabbed, and sold. What I'm talking about being out ahead is looking for opportunities to acquire great comics and keep them raw, fix them up, have fun with them, read them, whatever you want to do without having to overspend and overpay. If you're like me, you like to grade comics, you like to have them professionally graded, so some of that's important to me. If I were to get these books graded, I don't want to lose money. I also don't want to go on eBay and pay $200 for one of these books in a 9.8 if I can buy it for $4 or $5 or $6 and pay a little bit of money to have somebody look at it, maybe fix it up a little bit, give it a little bit of comic book TLC, send it off for grading. And again, even if my math is way off and I'm talking about spending more money, I'm talking about $50 for each of these, maybe that sounds like it's too much, but even so, I'm getting a $50 9.8 instead of spending $200 or trying to lowball somebody in an auction or making an offer and getting it for $150. It obviously depends on supply, demand, how much you really desire this book. I get that. It's not like every comic book has value. It's timing. There's a lot of different variables involved. But the way that I collect is really a combination of quantity and quality. I really don't collect in one extreme or the other. And because I am dealing with large quantities, I just want to make sure that I'm spending my money intelligently. Thanks for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.